The most common source of exposure in the workplace is the combustion engine. And anyone working with combustion engines is at risk, right? So that's all of you out there. There are protections, though, you can implement to stay safe, and let's take a look at what some of those are. The main issue, first of all, with carbon monoxide poisoning is um, it's caused by incomplete combustion of natural gases like gasoline, diesel, kerosene, propane, coal, wood. These are all the common products that you all are burning either at home or at work. It's colorless, it's odorless, it's just not readily noticeable by anybody. It can mix with other gases and odors that you normally breathe and you're unaware of its presence, such as wood smoke. So like if you're at a campfire or anything and you're breathing in a lot of wood smoke, there's probably a good amount of CO in there as well. But you can prevent it. Let's look at some of the ways that you can prevent carbon monoxide. First of all, let's look at some of the ways it's harmful. It displaces oxygen in your blood and deprives your heart, brain, lungs, and all your other vital organs of oxygen. And they need oxygen to function. You can become overcome by large amounts of carbon monoxide in minutes without warning. So it can hit you in huge waves and you won't even notice it. In addition to all of the symptoms that you see up here, the headache, the nausea, the dizziness, the breathlessness, you can collapse, you can become unconscious. All of these things are um, symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, in addition to some tightening in the chest. So you might feel that first, and then you may experience any of these other symptoms next. Or it doesn't even have to be in that order. It can be in any order at all. During prolonged or high exposure, symptoms can worsen or include vomiting. So you might find yourself, not just nauseous, but actually throwing up. You can have confusion and be disoriented, or you can collapse in addition to just being unconscious. Or you can just get weak muscles. I mean, the symptoms vary widely from person to person because everyone's different. Everyone's physical makeup is different. Everyone has different chemicals in their body already. And that's why, for you all anyway, in this business, it's a good idea to know each other's habits and what looks normal or not. Speak up if you think someone's acting unusual or if something's out of the ordinary. It could be the difference between someone or all of you becoming overcome by carbon monoxide poisoning or saving someone's life. CO poisoning can occur sooner in those who are more susceptible, people with heart or lung disease, people who are already compromised in their heart or lungs in some way, or those who already have elevated levels of CO, like this guy here who is smoking. And so if you haven't done so already, it's a good idea to quit smoking. And I only put this up here because of how ridiculous he looks. So if you're a smoker, quit smoking. It's already raising, it's giving you an existing high CO level. But CO can be reversed. CO poisoning can be reversed if it's caught in time. However, even if you recover, the acute poisoning, if you have it, could result in permanent damage to parts of your body that require a lot of oxygen, like your heart and your lungs. This picture here shows portable oxygen generators, and these are what people use who need CO 24/7. The people who wear those little oxygen cannulas or have masks. These are very much in demand right now, and if you can find one, good luck. But this is what people use when they have when they want to maintain some kind of mobility after they've damaged their lungs. Just thought I'd show that to you because that could be what what ends up happening if someone is poisoned by carbon monoxide. Okay, who's at risk? You may be exposed to high levels of CO in boiler rooms, breweries, warehouses, petroleum refineries, pulp and paper production, steel production, working around docks and shipyards, blast furnaces, coke ovens, or in any of the following occupations. So if you're a welder, right? If you're a garage mechanic, and that could be some of you out there, if you're a firefighter, metal oxide reducer, metal worker, a longshore worker, a diesel engine operator. Hello, is that any of you out there? A forklift operator, a marine terminal worker, or a toll booth or tunnel attendant. So it could be any of you. But remember how it gets in the air. It's the incomplete combustion of carbon fuels like gas, propane, diesel, wood, the things you're burning at work, maybe not wood, but most of those other fuels you're burning in some capacity at work. Anytime you're working in an environment where you have burning fuels, you have the potential for CO poisoning anytime, even outside. So what do you do about it? If you think someone has been poisoned, so the very first thing you need to do is move the person to fresh air. Get them out of the area, get them out of the immediate area where they've been, where you think they've been poisoned. If it's inside, get them outside. If it's outside, drag them away from any buildings or any source of combustion. Call 911 or another local emergency number for medical attention or assistance. However you need to get some help, call them. Um, if you have oxygen, right? Not all of you are going to be out there with 100%, breathable oxygen and a tight-fitting mask. But if you have one, give it to them, right? If you're a firefighter or if you've got CBAs or something like that, give them oxygen. But don't administer industrial O2. You can't take an industrial bottle of oxygen and give that to somebody to breathe. That's not good. If you can, or if you have to, give them CPR if you know how, if you're trained. Um, these are the ways you can help someone if you think they've been poisoned by carbon monoxide. But here's a warning. You may be exposed to fatal levels of CO in a rescue attempt. So if you go in to help somebody, you don't know how they got to be overcome by the CO or why they're even unconscious or acting the way they are. Um, so there's always the potential hazard that the rescuer will be overcome by the same poison that the person who's down was overcome by. So you should be skilled at performing recovery operations or using recovery equipment if you're going to go in to try to save somebody. And employers should make sure that rescuers are not exposed to dangerous levels of CO when they perform rescue attempts, right? So you have to really think hard before you go in to try to save someone, because it's not going to do anybody any good if you just all of you become overcome by the CO or are all poisoned by it. So think about that before you go in. Get some kind of protection. That's what employees can do, or this is what employees can do rather, to prevent CO poisoning. Some things you can think about while you're out there going about your job. Here's some common culprits that you might encounter at work. And you can see all these pictures here of typical things that you'll see. Avoid the use of gas-powered engines, such as those in power washers, as well as heaters, forklifts, while you're working inside. If you have to, open up all the doors, get as much ventilation as possible in there if you're going to operate those inside. Report any situation to your employer that might cause the CO to accumulate, right? If there are leaks or if there are problems, if irregularities with any of your equipment that's operating indoors, you need to tell people right away. Watch where you park your vehicles, right? I mean, you see this beautiful truck here, but on the top, you also see an air intake valve. Avoid idling near those types of intake valves. I mean, I ask any fireman and they'll tell you that they've probably responded to some type of CO alarm event or whatever, and it's because someone parked a car near the air intake valve. So avoid idling near those or parking near them or any open doors or windows. And keep all your ventilation systems clear and check those filters as often as possible. And be very alert to ventilation problems, especially those inside where you're burning these gases or some of these fuels might be released. You've got compressors, you've got even power tools, some things like that. Avoid operating any combustion equipment inside in the first place if possible. Right? They tell you don't ever do any of those things inside your house. Don't do them inside of your garage either. Um, be aware of and report, and this is especially important because, like I said, you can't see or smell, or you just don't know that this stuff is present. So you have to be aware of what the symptoms are. If people start complaining of being dizzy or drowsy, or they start feeling nauseous, or they actually do, vomit. Avoid any kind of overexertion if you suspect poisoning, and leave the contaminated area, right? Because here's the deal. The more you breathe, if you're exerting yourself and you're doing more heavy breathing, you're taking in more CO. Avoid anything like that. Just get out of there as soon as possible. Get everyone out as soon as possible. Even if it's a false alarm, wouldn't you rather err on the side of caution and make sure everyone's safe? Just get everyone out and clear the air and figure out what's going on. And if you do get sick, tell your doctor that you may have been exposed to CO. Some symptoms might not be immediate. They may show up later. Again, everybody's different, um, and you might not feel it right away. So some things that employers can do. So if you're the boss, here's what you can do. You can install and maintain effective ventilation systems that remove the CO from the work area. So you can make sure that nobody's exposed by doing these engineering controls. You can switch to battery powered or electrical equipment whenever possible. That's a really good move. Avoid completely all of that combustion engine stuff, or prohibit the use of gas powered tools and prohibit the use of gas powered tools in poorly ventilated areas. And this is an OSHA regulation. This is not just what you would think would be common sense. It's actually an OSHA regulation. Um, and here's a big one. Install audible CO alarms and monitors if you have the possibility of exposure. If you've got any of these devices installed inside, any of these compressors, any of these pieces of equipment inside, make sure you have audible CO alarms and monitors. Just even if you have a furnace inside, gas burning furnace inside, you should have an audible CO alarm and monitor, just like you would in your house. You should have some type of way to monitor the air quality because, again, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you don't know it's there. Um, if you do think there's stuff around or where there are typically high concentrations of CO, make sure your people are trained to properly use the right PPE, right? And for this, it would be self-contained breathing apparatus or full face pressure demand supplied air respirator, um, either one of those. But you need to be trained for that. Some of this requires special hazmat training as well. And nobody should ever put on a full face respirator or any of these pieces of SCBAs or PPEs without being fitted for it and properly trained. But maintaining your equipment, keeping all of these things in good working order, testing the air regularly, using the proper PPE. And if you guys do end up using respirators with canisters, make sure that you're only doing that for short periods of time and that you do have the right canister on them. And this is only for areas where the CO is not exceedingly high. But the most important thing any employer can do to keep their people safe is to educate them about the sources and the conditions that may result in CO poisoning and all of the symptoms and the control of CO exposure. Um, that is probably the best thing you can do for any safety issue at work, but educating your workers about the sources of CO is particularly important because you can't see it. It sneaks up on you. You just don't know it's there until you've been exposed. And that's just not a good position to be in, whether you're the employee or the employer. All right, let's go over a couple of key points. Again, it's caused by the incomplete combustion of carbon fuels. It's a silent killer. It's odorless, colorless. The poisoning can be prevented, so there are lots of things you can do. You can use proper ventilation inside and outside. You can report problems with your equipment. That's key. Make sure you're using properly maintained and well-working equipment, or get rid of the combustion equipment altogether. Whoops, I've got a typo in there. Use electric tools instead of gas-powered tools. Make sure, though, if you are using those gas-powered tools, that you have alarms and monitors. And most importantly, educate your employees about the hazards of carbon monoxide poisoning, just like you are right now. You can count on your LTAP to do that, to help you with that. And you can also look up more if you want to see the regulations on carbon monoxide. You can look at the facts at the OSHA regulation listed here. So once again, I want to thank you all for coming to the Colorado LTAP Tailgate Talk and finding out how you can keep your employees safe. I always like to leave the safety topic with a reminder that we are not doing these safety talks and reminding people of the safety information because something might happen. We're doing it because these things already have happened over and over and over, and these are all the lessons we've learned, and we're passing them all on to you so that you can keep your crews and your family safe. Thank you all, and have a wonderful afternoon.